everyone, it's Emma, and today I'm talking about Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. This review has been coming for like 3 weeks because I read this in about 2 days right after it came out. My notes were a mess because I was a mess. Kind of took me a while to be ready to sit down and talk about it, but I'm ready and we're going to talk about it, and I'm so excited. First of all, I'm just going to give some non-spoilery thoughts. So if you haven't read the book, you can feel free to stay and I will let you know when to leave. This is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series, which was originally a trilogy and has now been expanded into 6 books. So this one is the first of 3 new books that are coming out. Although it is considered one series, it's not like a companion trilogy, this book really did feel like a breakaway from the original 3. Even just this one book expanded the world and the characters and what we knew from the first 3 books so much. One of the reasons that I love the original trilogy is because Tahereh Mafi didn't try to change all of this world in 3 books. It is a dystopian, so the government as we know it has ended and this group called the Re-establishment has taken over. Often what I don't like about dystopians is that they try and accomplish so much in such a short time. When it's only a trilogy, it's just not that believable to me to be able to like take down the government and establish a whole new government and wage war, have good things come of it. And Tahereh Mafi didn't try to do that in the original trilogy. It was a lot more about the characters and their development. So for me, I was really satisfied with where the 3rd book ended because the characters had developed so much. This book really expanded the world and the plot into something much bigger, which is why I loved it. I had pretty low expectations going into this because I think anyone is nervous when one of their favorite series gets expanded. I'm not nervous anymore because I loved it. I'm so excited with where this series is going. One of the things that I loved is that the first 3 books are told completely from Juliet's point of view. It's first person present, so whatever Juliet doesn't know in the first 3 books, which is a lot, we don't know either. Juliet's voice is very poetic, and so that really worked in the first 3 books. I actually loved that about it. There was a vagueness about all details, like you didn't really know what was going on in the world or how it was governed, what everyone had been doing all these years, because Juliet herself was in the dark. But in Restore Me, we get a new point of view. We get Warner's point of view. Now, I went to the release for this book, and Tahereh Mafi made a point of saying that she didn't include Warner's point of view just to kill one of them off. I think everyone is scarred from Allegiant, so whenever a new point of view is introduced, we immediately get super nervous. But Tahereh said at the event that that's not what she's doing. She hasn't brought all these characters back just to kill them all off. And I think that put a lot of people at ease. That being said, I really loved Warner's point of view. At some points, I liked it better than Juliet's point of view. One of the reasons that it works so well is because Juliet's point of view, like I said, and like I have said in my Shatter Me spoiler-free review, is very poetic, almost nonsensical. It is all from how she views the world, and as Juliet has been in an asylum for a couple years, she, 1, doesn't know a lot about the world, and 2, she views it in a very specific way. She kind of views it through the lens of her trauma. Warner, of course, has his own issues, but the way that he thinks about things is very analytical and straightforward. So compared to Juliet's kind of poetic way of thinking, it is a nice break. And in Juliet's point of view, my emotions get engaged, but in Warner's point of view, my mind is engaged, because Warner knows so much about the world, about the Re-establishment, everything that's been going on for these past few years. So we get to know so much more through his eyes, and I just loved that. It was so exciting. All of the vagueness from the first 3 books, a lot of it is explained. A lot of things that I had wondered about but kind of thought would never be explained actually were explained. We even get to see one of Warner's ex-girlfriends, which was very interesting. We get new characters introduced who I love, and we also have all of our old characters come back. It was so nice to see this world and the characters written with Tahereh Mafi's current day writing, like, you can tell that her writing has grown, and so it's nice to see the same world and the same characters with her writing style having been improved on. Overall, this one sold me 100% on the idea of this series being 6 books long. Like I said before, I think we're often all nervous when one of our favorite series is being expanded upon. But I'm not nervous anymore. I'm just so excited to see where it all goes. Those are all of my non-spoilery thoughts. I'm now going to go into my very super uber spoilery thoughts. So if you haven't read the book, I highly encourage you leave, like, right now. Like, I'm not giving any more intro. I'm gonna jump right in, so if you haven't left yet, hurry up and leave! Okay, my spoilery notes, like I said, were a mess because I was an emotional mess and I was just so excited through the entirety of this book that I tried to interpret what my notes were trying to say, so let's just see how this goes. The interactions between Kenji and Warner were so good. Like the scene where Warner was drugged and Kenji was like taking care of him. Warner was kind of letting down his defenses because he was drugged. Like he smiled and Kenji saw his dimples and was like, "Aw, you have dimples, that's so cute." It's been a while since I read a book where I was like a fangirly giggling mess, but this one totally did it, and I feel like a lot of those moments were because of Warner and Kenji. I just loved their interactions. They were so funny. Probably because Kenji is so funny. On the other hand, this book was also way more intense than I thought it was going to be. I think it happened twice that I had to actually put the book down and take a break, step away, and make some coffee because my heart was racing. I don't want to say it was scary, but like all the stuff that happens with Juliet's sister, everything there that got explained, that was just so intense. Disturbing, I think, and I wasn't totally expecting that, but I gotta say, I really liked it. I'm gonna come back to Juliet's sister. Let's hold off on talking about that for a little bit. Does anybody else kind of hate Castle? I felt this way in the first 3 books, so this isn't a new thing, but Castle has always frustrated me so much. It's not that I think he's like evil or he's gonna suddenly betray everyone or something like that, and I understand him as a character. It's just that he kind of has this disregard for kindness and like being nice to people that really annoys me. Like the way that he went about talking to Warner about Warner and Juliet and saying that Warner needed to tell Juliet. I understand where he's coming from, but I don't agree with the way that he does it at all, and it's so annoying to me because he's supposed to be the adult and the one who's like helping them along, but I don't necessarily trust his advice. Let's talk about Juliet's newfound powers, the way that she has been using her powers. The fact that she can use her voice to hurt things is so cool. I love how the more Juliet emotionally heals, the stronger her powers get. The more that she embraces who she is and embraces this incredible strength that she has, the more she's better able to use it. I love that so much. Honestly, I just loved Juliet's whole progression in this book. When she shaved her head, I was like yelling. I was so excited. I was just so hyped because I feel like Tahereh presented something by really showing how it manifests. Is being pretty and wearing certain clothes important? No. But is liking the way you look and having confidence in putting yourself forward important? Yes it is. It is very much so. It made me really happy that Tahereh wrote that narrative for Juliet, of Juliet starting to like herself and be more confident and being okay with looking a certain way, drawing attention to herself and being powerful and being a beautiful woman. I just loved it. I loved that she wrote that for Juliet. Juliet has always been beautiful, but she's never really liked the way that she looked and she's never wanted people to look at her. Also, on a less important note, I love that she shaved her head because I've always joked to my friends that if I ever went through a super dramatic, just like heartbreaking, uber dramatic breakup, I would shave my head. Because I've always wanted to try it and I've just never had like an excuse that seemed like, oh, now is a good time to shave my head. So I just thought it was funny that Juliet did that too. Speaking of breakups, I know that Juliet and Warner were having issues in this book, but to be honest, it didn't make me very worried. It wasn't the type of thing where I was like, oh no, they're breaking up and my ship is not gonna happen. Like, I think we all know at this point that Warner and Juliet are endgame, and the kind of issues that they were having actually seemed like the type that will make them better in the long run. In the original trilogy, I did have issues with them as a couple. Not that I didn't like them as a couple, because I love them as a couple. They just still have some issues. Like, Warner is still not that open with Juliet. Obviously, he doesn't know how to communicate at all. Juliet and Warner both still have parts of themselves that they hate, and I feel like that was a big part of like what was going on in their relationship. They didn't know how to be truthful because they kind of suppress that side of themselves too. So I know that they'll be fine. The part that did frustrate me a little bit was Warner. Once they kind of did break up, Warner's attitude of like, oh no, Juliet will never forgive me and I'll just go and be alone forever. That just frustrated me. I would like to see Warner actually ask for forgiveness and try to mend things, if that makes sense. Because it's true, when Warner told Juliet that news, she did freak out and she did run away. But then Warner's like, it's the end, we're never getting back together. So it's not like I'm really frustrated with him because the poor child has been through so much. But at the same time, I am ready and excited to see some forward movement. Okay, so new characters. I really just want to talk about the two girls that we saw the most. I freaking love Nazira. I really hope that she turns out to be like trustworthy, because at this point I don't know who she is at all. Like, I don't really know where her allegiances lie. I don't trust her at all. But I really hope that she ends up working together with Juliet, because I would love for Juliet to have a girlfriend. Please. Especially one like Nazira, who is so badass and hard, strong in the more obvious outward sense. I loved that aspect where Juliet was kind of looking at her and like half admiring, thinking like, oh my gosh, this girl is so cool, and half being jealous because she's never been like that herself. There was this part right after they met that I just thought was so good. She's just describing Nazira and what she has observed of her. Anyway, she seems really angry and really beautiful and really intimidating. The painful truth is that I've never felt so intimidated by another girl before, and I don't know how to admit that out loud. All day and for the last couple of weeks, I've felt like an imposter, a child. I hate how easily I fade in and out of confidence, how I waver between who I was and who I could be. My past still clings to me, skeleton hands holding me back even as I push forward into the light. And I can't help but wonder how different I'd be today if I'd ever had someone to encourage me when I was growing up. I never had strong female role models. Meeting Nazira tonight, seeing how tall and brave she was, made me wonder where she learned to be that way. It made me wish I had a sister or a mother, someone to learn from and lean on. A woman to teach me how to be brave in this body among these men. I loved that aspect of Juliet looking at Nazira, and there might have been a little bit of jealousy, but it was almost more like she just admired the way that she was, and she had this thought process of like, how can I be like that? I've never had an example like this. How can I get to that point? And I think even just knowing Nazira for that short amount of time probably influenced where Juliet gets in the end, with shaving her head and wearing certain clothes and feeling more confident, just having that little example. And I just love that. It's so good. Female friendships. That is so good. Now let's move on to the other girl. I didn't have a lot to say about Lena. When I took notes on her, I was a bit upset. So what I said was, and I'm just gonna read it to you guys. She's a jerk face, everything phobic, and she can choke. I'm pretty sure that was in response to the way she treated the trans character in the book, Valentina. I was real upset, but I stick by that because Lena is a jerk face. I'd kind of really like to see an ex-girlfriend character in a YA book who's not a total monster. I feel like that never happens. That ex-girlfriend who like, oh, they broke up because of whatever, they just weren't a good mix, but she's probably a cool person and she probably has cool interests and is not a total jerk. That's a random thought, because obviously anyone that Warner used to date in the way that he was is not going to be a cool person, but I'd like to see that in some YA book somewhere. The last 20 pages had me just constantly reeling. Actually, I think as soon as Juliet shaved her head, the rest of the book was just constant state of shock. I was still trying to process all the information about Juliet's sister and what Juliet's sister's been living in all these years, and the part that Warner played in that, because in the first few books, it was kind of like everything bad that you thought Warner did, he didn't actually do. He usually had good motives behind it, but this is something bad that Warner did. It's very complicated because there's abuse from his dad, and he was not exactly living in a situation where he had a lot of freedom to choose. But at the same time, he still did these things, so I understand like Juliet's having trouble processing that and all of that. I, as the reader, am having trouble processing all of that. We don't even get time to recover before it's revealed who Juliet's parents are. Tahereh had oh so subtly mentioned that the commanders of Oceania, I forget what it's called, had no kids, and then plot twist. I thought that was clever. I was like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Then Juliet kills all those people. That scene really confused me, to be honest. I still am not 100% sure what happened. She mentioned that Brendan died, and Brendan was one of my faves in the original series, and then he just casually dies, just like that. Some of her friends died, and I couldn't figure out if it was Juliet who killed those people, or the people who like stormed in from Oceania. Then I turned the page to this. These dots are the source of all of my angst and turmoil. When I got to Warner's POV and it was just all these dots, I literally made the asdfgjical text noise out loud. I couldn't believe what was happening. Then we find out that her real name is Ella, and we see the picture of her, Ella and Aaron as kids together. I'm still in a state of shock, I think. I don't really have a lot to say for that ending, other than that it was creepy. The whole part where she was in the kids' room, apparently her and her sister's room, ugh, gave me chills. Also rude that we have to wait till the next book to find out where Warner is and where Kenji is, because I think she said Kenji was getting dragged away. Speaking of, I didn't really mention Kenji much, but I still love him. I love him so much more after getting his backstory. I've been waiting for that. Kenji is still my favorite, and I think will remain to be my favorite. Ready for him to find his girlfriend or boyfriend, because someone needs to love him. I really want to see Juliet spend time with the other commanders' kids. We got a tiny bit of that in this book. I would love to see some real political stuff go down and Juliet making allies with the kids, because it sounds like all the parents are pure evil. So they need to not be ruling the world. And the kids sound like they have a lot more nuance, especially because they've been treated so badly by their parents. Nazira doesn't seem to be loyal to her parents, so I would really like to see Juliet and Warner and Kenji make friends and take over the world. So that is all I have to say about Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. Obviously you can tell I had a lot of feelings while reading this book. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought, but try not to be too spoilery because I don't want anybody to get spoiled in the comments. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments so I can chat with you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a lovely day or night or afternoon wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and I will see you in my next video.